Boom. And just like that, we are live for another edition of Going the Distance. As always, Going the Distance podcast is brought to you by Going the Distance Live, or Going the Distance, the book, excuse me. Going the Distance Live is always brought to you by Going the Distance, the book, written by me, your host, Brandon Hudgens. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Pick your copy up today. There's also right now one signed copy left on BrandonHudgens.com. If you go to the store, there is one signed copy left. If you'd like, I can personalize it for you, but there is one signed copy left on BrandonHudgens.com. If you're interested in picking that up, same price as it is on Amazon. You just get to have it autographed. Like me, you just have to pay for shipping and handling, which is $3.99, I believe. So without that out of the way, we are going to chat a little bit about my race that I had last weekend and see where the night takes us from there. So this past Saturday, I lined up at the JDL Fast Track in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to run an 800-meter race, and it went pretty well. I had a time range I had in my head. I thought if things went perfect, I could run about 153. If things went not so perfect, I thought I would run about 155, and I ran 155. So I guess I ran the slower end of the time that I was sort of planning on, or my goal. So I guess if the A goal was 153, the B goal was probably 155. But I definitely, if I was giving myself a grade, I would definitely give myself probably an A-. I did make one huge major mistake in the middle of the race. I got overexcited as we approached about halfway through the race, which is 400, which the JDL Fast Track is a 200-meter indoor track. So that's half the size of a normal outdoor track if you're not track initiated. So normally the way I run the 800, I run normally pretty even splits. A lot of speedier people run the 800. And they get out really, really super hard, and then try to hang on the second lap. And I normally catch up with about 400 meters to go. I normally start reeling all those people in and use my strength as a distance runner the latter part of the race. Well, I got really excited about 400, and the pace lagged a little bit, and I got a whiff that I could get to the front, and I popped out to kind of make a move, and my dear friend and training partner, Donnie Cowart, sensed the same thing at exactly the same time, and I yelled and was like, go, 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 Donnie, go. And he and I tore off towards the front, and I sort of kind of blew all my energy then. You kind of got one move to make to the finish in a shorter race, and I paid for it dearly the last 200 meters. In fact, the last 200 meters, I ran at a pace slower than my mile pace. So it was quite exciting just to be back out there and be in the mix. With about 400 to go, I thought I could even steal the victory. That thought went flying through my brain, which spending 18 months away from racing and getting in a race and thinking that you could win it against a guy, two of my training partners, Donnie Cowart, who is, one of the best steeplechasers in the country, and Adam Jones, who I had on the podcast, is a young up-and-coming buck who was a national qualifier in college. If I could have gotten a win against either one of them, I would have been super stoked. But I got a whiff of it and paid for it dearly. But more importantly, I was out there racing again, and I had an absolute blast. I finished with a smile on my face and loads of booty luck. But it looks like my boy John Spencer Wolf is correct. The NCAA had, if I were still an NCAA athlete, obviously I think I'm a few years removed from college, would convert my 155 to a 153 because it is a flat track and it's harder to run on a flat track. If you think about NASCAR, like NASCAR has banked turns because it's hard, that allows them to maintain those ridiculous 200 mile an hour speeds in the turns. So when I do that, or when you run at a track like the JDL Fast Track in Winston-Salem, they have a flat track, so it's harder to maintain your speed. So The NCAA has figured out some weird conversion table where they give you, in the distance races and some of the shorter sprinter races, they give you a conversion. Because running on a flat track and running on a bank track, obviously you can run a little faster on a bank track. But the good news is I will be on a bank track in New York City in a week and a half. One of my favorite tracks is the Armory at the Milrose Games, and racing the International Mile, which is basically, I don't want to call it the B Heat because, it's the B Heat, but the Wanamaker Mile, which is the oldest and most prestigious indoor track race or mile in the world. That mile was started, I believe, in 1926, if I did my track nerd brain remembers correctly. Up until I think about 2011, 2012, they actually hosted the Milrose Games at Madison Square Garden. And I was super disappointed when I finally got the, opportunities later in my career to start racing events like that it was no longer in Madison Square Garden, because who wouldn't want to race in Madison Square Garden? I mean, it's the Garden. So that's actually one of my missions in life, is to get a track meet back in places like the Garden. It's probably a long way off, but it's a goal of mine, because I think it would be super cool to race under the lights there in the Garden. But it's a long shot, but you got to have goals, right? So, anyways, it was super fun to race with my teammates and training partners this past week. It also got to have some of my friends and frequent, I guess we would call them podcast pop shotters. Caroline Paget and her husband Josh and their son Gray, who is basically my nephew, came out and watched, and it was super exciting to get to compete in the area, because you spend so much of the time racing all across the country to compete where your family and your friends can see you is such an awesome experience. That's why it was super cool that, not to bring up the past, but I'll pat myself on the back. That's why it was super cool when I got to, run the Sir Walter Mile a couple of years ago. And that's why I broke 4 minutes the first time, because, that could have literally happened anywhere in the country or the world. And it was super exciting to be able to do it somewhere where friends and family could see. So hopefully there'll be more of those in the spring and summer, where I'll have the opportunity to compete in the Southeast. If not, look for me in a town or state near you. But right now, it looks like New York City is definitely on the dock for next week. And then after that, maybe another race up in New York City, or possibly one in Virginia. We'll see. Right now, trying to figure that out based on my current fitness level, which is fluctuating daily. So it's super exciting to be back racing. And I really, really enjoy getting out there and just getting a whiff of it and getting that environment. I was so nervous on Saturday that I spent, I think, about half the day on the toilet and the other half of the day laying in bed trying to take a nap, but not able to take a nap. And to give you an idea, like a lot of us on race days, you really don't do anything because you want to save all your energy for the race. So you spend a lot of time lounging around, watching Netflix, just chilling, trying to expend no energy. And probably my best quality as a human being is my ability to sleep. Even before the Olympic trials, even during those rounds and stuff, and I was super nervous for those, but even then I was able to take naps during the day to rest up. So I was so nervous this past Saturday. I literally couldn't even nap. I just laid in bed and I felt like my heart rate was going to explode. I was so nervous. Anytime I started thinking about the race, and when I was pretty good in the morning, but then I went for my shakeout jog after breakfast, and just all those butterflies started coming in. It was whoo. But yeah, Wolf Dog 5 trips minimum to the bathroom pre-race. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to know. I think I've lost count about number 7 or number 8. But just, that nervous stomach. And then, it was tore up after the race. It was bad. But you get that first one out of the way and, they get easier from there. And you're only nervous because you care. Right. And that's what makes it exciting. That's why we do it. That's why it's tough, and that's why it matters. That's why, you're nervous about something because you care and you've put a lot of energy into it. And we all experience the nerves. It's just how you handle them is, a lot of times how you'll perform. You don't want to wear yourself out before you even get on the starting line, which I think I did a good job somehow. I still had a lot of energy in the race. Like I said, I got a little antsy. But the racing instincts will come back the more we do it. When you spend 18 months away from something, even if you've done it a lot, like I've done it for the majority of the last 20 years of my life, but even if you've done it a lot, you still kind of forget what the race hurt really feels like and what all it's going to entail. And it looks like here somebody's posted a link to a race nearby. I'll have to check this one out. It says the Rocket Mile. We'll have to see when is this? Am I just dumb? Can I not see a date on here? See a location. Maybe if I click sign up, it'll tell me. May 6th. I might have to look at that. I wonder when this started, because I have not heard about. Oh, actually, I do. Never mind. Okay, I remember about that. I believe they started this race last year or 2 years ago. I got contacted about it, and I couldn't do it. Yeah, it looks like my friend here, Andy Cosarelli, has the course record for the women. This is literally half of being a professional distance runner is scouring the internet for races to run. So May 6th, I might have to put that on my calendar and email those people. Okay, if it's about 3 years old, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember at some point in time, now that I kind of like saw what it was about, the race, I'll have to look into that. That's exciting. Of course, knowing my luck, actually, I think May 6th is normally a weekend of a really big race out west for people to get fast times to try to qualify for USAs, which would be my luck. That's a lot of times what happens is there's something nearby and I have something else planned. I'll have to look into that, though. That's super exciting. So Anderson, Chapel Hill, which is only an hour away. So maybe it's a USATF event, so maybe there might even be money, which would be even cooler. So, so much of what we do has no money in it, which is one of the things I'm trying to change about the sport. And one of the big goals I have, because there's too many people they're hurting for money in the sport that either have to work other full-time jobs or do like I do and hodgepodge your way through it and end up with no savings account. But they say it's worth it. It felt worth it in 2016 when I got to the Olympic trials to have done all that. So hopefully it's worth it in 2022 or 2020 also, not 2022. I don't know if my legs can hang on that long. We'll see. But anyways, thank you, Mary Frances, for sharing that race information. Anyways, what's up, Rubus? My boy Rubus just joined. Rubus is the hub of distance running. Track and Field's #1 fan, despite what Let'sRun.com said. I'm still bitter at them about that, Rubus, because clearly they were mistaken. Anyways, last week we tackled a little bit about fear, and I was going to actually take y'all through kind of some of the thought process and stuff that like I've been working through with that because I talked about it and tried, I told y'all that things that I was working on and things that I had noticed that I was doing. And I was just going to follow up on some of that because so often like somebody brings up a topic and people try to make a change, but they don't really see the process of it. And that's been a lot of what I've been trying to show everybody is just like with everything in my life, whether that be dealing with vasculitis, whether that be dealing with distance running, whether that, be dealing with mental health issues or food issues or whatever it is. It's like you can talk about something and try to fix something, but if you don't see the process and don't talk about the process or kind of flesh out some of the ideas, then it's not really, I don't really find it helpful if you're not able to see people kind of work through stuff. So last week, we're talking about kind of like the fear of things kind of stopping you from doing something. And that, can create some big issues and like can create a roadblock in your life if you're trying to make changes. Or if you're trying to do something and you don't quite know how to do it and quite know how to make it work. Or in my instances, like, I got afraid and kind of got stage fright on the biggest stage and have noticed some other pitfalls in like my training and my racing and these patterns that you fall into in your brain. And I don't know, I don't want to say that they're like protection mechanisms, but like, fear was useful and is still useful at times, but it was mainly useful to, protect us from like wolves and bears and snakes. And, there's a snake like right there, that I've learned not to be afraid of, surprisingly. But anyways, I digress. Fear is, it can hang you up. And what I, have noticed is that there's basically these like, once you kind of get a thought process and that process becomes automatic. And I've noticed it in myself a lot. And it's like, I have to fix these. It's like I talked about a little bit last week, I believe, if I remember correctly, that like I noticed bad thought processes where I was like getting scared for workouts and getting scared for races, but not scared in the sense of like, scared of what was going to happen or afraid to perform, but it was more of the fear of not performing and not performing up to standard or not being in shape enough or whatever. And I, as I've gotten more and more in shape, I didn't have those like 2 months ago. It was just like, I was going out and running and I was just trying to do the best I could every single day. And there was no expectations, but now that there's expectations with workouts and now that there's expectations to produce as an athlete again, there's a self pressure that comes. And with that, I started noticing some of the old thought patterns that I had become an issue in the past. And it's like literally like they're like booby traps you're kind of walking into, or quicksand or like a warm blanket. It's almost like a warm blanket because you're comfortable there. Cause it's like, you know that like how to handle it if you deal with something a certain way. But I really worked on it, for the race on Saturday, and I really worked on it for the, workouts and stuff that I've been doing recently. Because like these weren't things that I had 4, 5, 6, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, things that I didn't worry about when I was a kid running. You just showed up and you ran hard every single day at practice and you went home. But, when your life is, determined by small amounts of time, like seconds, I made it into the Olympic trials by a second and a half or so, or a little over a second. So like, had I run a second slower in 2016, I would have a completely different story right now. And so it's like when you live and die by those small margins, like you tend to blow out of proportion things, that shouldn't matter as much. So like when I was going to the track, just today to do a workout, and, it was the first huge like volume at mile pace workout that I've done in really probably 19 months, 20 months. It would have been since probably like July, maybe even before that, maybe June of 2016, since I'd done a workout with this much volume at mile pace in it. And it wasn't even goal mile pace. It was just like what we call date pace, like, which is the shape that we think that we're in right now. And it got daunting, and then it got scary. And then it's like, well, if I don't hit these splits, then does that mean that I'm not in that shape? Or does that mean that I'm not going to be able to do the race the following week? Does that mean and you just forget that it's like, it's not the one workout that makes or breaks your season, or breaks your career, or anything like that. It's a culmination of all that. And it's the consistent work. And I noticed that today, like when I was like starting to fall into that old pattern, like right before the workout was starting, it's like, well, if I don't run these times that he's giving me, like, oh God, it's a little cold outside. God, that's going to make it a little tougher, but it's not too windy. I think I can do it. And, I think I can probably still hit these splits, but it's going to be a lot tougher. But maybe that doesn't, if I don't hit these splits, then like, should I even be trying to race right now? All these things just start go flying through your head. And then it's just like, you got to realize you just got to take a step back. And it's like, I'm doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because I'm having fun. I had fun when I lined up on Saturday and raced, and, the workouts that I had done leading up to that, it would not have mattered had I run a second or two slower or faster on some of those intervals. It's like, you just have to show up every single day and do your personal best. And so, there's something that I learned kind of through some meditation techniques a couple of years ago. And it's simple. And it's what the basis of meditation is, which is just like, trying to quiet your mind, or whatever voodoo hippie words you want to use for it. But you're trying to, decrease your stress response. And now whenever I start noticing those things, and like, it's easy to let those thought processes just run wild and just go crazy. And then next thing you know, you've blown the workout up way before you've run the workout way before you've even done it. And you're too stressed out about it. So like, then it is the technique of like, everybody knows, like, you're supposed to sit down and relax or whatever. And you just focus on your breath, and, inhale, exhale, just thinking about your breathing. And then you notice things that are coming into your brain. And then it's like, oh no, you're supposed to just think about your breathing again, So that's kind of what I've started doing before workouts, when I get stressed, or before the race, when I started getting a little too nervous and too worked up. That what I noticed, it's just like, stop feeding the energy to the negative, and stop, falling into those thought traps and those thought processes, because they're not helpful to helping you succeed as an athlete or succeed in anything you want to do in life. If you're trying to make a big change, or you're trying to get healthy, or, trying to do more meditating, or whatever it is, that you fall into those traps really easily, especially if your brain's been trained for them, and you've had things that have kind of beat you down in life. Those things make those thought processes so much easier to fall into. And when they do that, all you have to do is just to slowly just start, like, just kind of divert your attention elsewhere, and you can't feed it the energy that it needs. And I think that's why I was able to perform well on Saturday, despite having been so nervous all day. Is because, like, I never, even when I was getting nervous, I never tried to feed the energy so much. And, just because you're nervous or scared, like I said beforehand, doesn't mean you can't go do something. And today I had a really tough workout, and I got all the way through it. And you're taking one rep at a time, and you're taking one decision at a time in life. You're taking one race at a time, just each little thing at a time as it comes, and not feeding the negativity and the other stuff in that can really drag you down. And, and that's why I want to talk about this, and talk about the fear and a lot of times the negative aspects that go on in a lot of our heads, is because, like, I feel like there's, especially as an athlete, I think I've had these conversations with people, and I was talking even before the race, I was pushing on social media and stuff about being nervous, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't be nervous. Like, you got this. It's like, no, like, I still get nervous. I know other people still get nervous. And, I've had conversations with some of the best athletes in the world, and they still get nervous for races too. Nerves are something that you can't fight. There's still musicians and stuff that go on stage in front of, 50,000 people every night, and they still get nervous, and they do it, 50 or 100 nights a year. There's something about performing on a stage, whether that be like, a musician or athlete or whatever your stage is. There's tons of stages that people perform on every day that you get nervous for. And it's how you kind of handle that nervous energy and the thought processes that go into it. And, this was stuff that, I never even thought about, especially when you're growing up and you're surrounded by teammates and you have all these routines and stuff. And as you get older, and I guess your frontal lobe develops a little more, and you start to worry more, and you start to care more, and life things happen and make things more important than they might be, or make you care more, or you've invested more, and then something's not going right. So it's really easy to stress out about it. So like, you have to kind of be aware of these habits that might be hanging you up. And the one thing that I found that's so great about like that technique that I stole from meditation, which is just, like refocusing on your breath, or refocusing, like that helps. It helps train your brain to not feed those negative thoughts, because like I had negative thoughts before the race. It's like, what am I doing? Like, why am I even out here? I'm not ready yet. And it's like, no, you're ready. Like, don't worry about it. You're just going to go out there and have fun. Don't think about it. Just breathe. Don't think, just breathe. Don't. And then it's like, when the gun goes off, it's like, don't think, just run. Don't think, just run. Don't think, just run. And like, once the gun goes off, it all takes care of itself. As long as you're ready to perform. And, the same thing for the workout today and going forward. And why I kind of want to talk about this again today is like, you can't just talk about it one time or say something about it one time, and expect to kind of make changes or things to change a lot. So, that's what I kind of want to talk about just a little bit today is like, it's a process, and I fail at it constantly, and I fail at a lot of stuff. But that doesn't mean that you're not getting better and better and better. And, failure is how you learn. And those hard lessons force you to make changes. So, and as Mr. Bean said, when you get nervous because you care, and it's a good thing. And when you stop caring, it's time to find something else to do. And that's 100% correct. If you're not still getting nervous about some of the stuff that you do, whether it's, then, I don't want to say there's, things get dull. I get nervous now, because there's a lot of stuff that I care about. Whether I get nervous for some of my athletes that are competing. I get nervous watching my friends race. Anytime you're invested in something, you get nervous and you get anxious about it. But it's learning to kind of channel and funnel that into positivity and not negativity, and not letting it drag you down, and not letting it, stop you from doing the things that you love, because it gets tough sometimes if those nerves, if I've battled a lot of anxiety and depression problems, and I know other people have too. And it's something that's not talked about, enough in our community. And not just the community. I mean, like in the United States, it's just, people deal with a lot of issues in their life, and it beats them down, and we don't have a lot of outlets for those things. And that's why I've done a lot of talking, and want to continue to do a lot of talking about these sort of things, these things that can hang us up, and like just share some of the small, because I'm by no means, I'm not an expert on any of this. But there's just some tips that I've picked up along the way that help. And it's just, the refocusing the energy, I think is so critical, because when you do, as a lot of us do, you have the mind that gets set and passed so easily. And especially when you do a lot of, we all have routines that we do, and we do things a lot. And routines are great, and routines are really important. In fact, there's a whole chapter in my book about routines, and how when you do routines, things kind of just take care of themselves. But we want those positive thoughts and those positive thought processes to become routine instead of the negative ones. And, I wanted to follow up on it, because if we can't, it can't kind of see that transition, or, you know, you don't expect something to just work the first time you try it. You know, I told you, like, I had been experiencing some of this over the last couple of weeks, and like, you know, I managed to get through it some with the race, but then again, here we are Wednesday, you know, just a few days later, and I'm back struggling with it again, you know? You know, it's always a process. Everything's a process, and you just have to keep working on it. And that's what's, so important about, you know, doing the things that you love and investing that energy into it, because you'll see the progress. And I saw the progress with how I handled the nerves, at that race so much better than I had handled, you know, some pretty comparable nerves when I was at the Olympic trials. Now, granted, it was just on a bigger stage, and those nerves were for completely different reasons. But the internal response doesn't feel any different. It doesn't feel, any different to your body, because your body's nervous. So, it's just channeling those thoughts and learning to just, because you can't get rid of them. You know, we're not ever going to get rid of the negative thoughts, or the thoughts of feeling sad, or the thoughts of questioning why you're doing something, or maybe you're doing something that's unhappy. You're not going to get rid of those thoughts and those doubts. They're there, and everybody has them. And if somebody tells you that they don't, they're lying to you. So, it's how we deal with those, and the successful people obviously deal with them really well. And we all can get there, and we can all work on it, and like challenge yourself. Just when you find yourself getting in a negative thought, or you find yourself getting sad about something, just kind of just take a minute to think about your breath, think about something else, think about, you know, your loved ones, or the people that you care about, or the people that are invested in you. And realize that stuff's still there. So you don't need to feed that negativity. You don't need to feed those bad thoughts, and just take those deep breaths and just refocus. And you're going to have to continue to refocus more and more and more. And just like when you meditate, those things like literally plow new pathways through your brain, and that's good for you. And it'll help so that those negative responses don't become so automatic. So that's just kind of my challenge, I guess, for everybody for the week is, just take that time when you're getting nervous about something, you're getting worked up about something, you're scared of a situation, something's not going right. Just take the time to stop and kind of breathe, because you don't want to either make any rash decisions, or quit something because you love it, and things just aren't working out right then, or, you know, give up on a dream, or you know, get frustrated with a situation. We could all just, you know, take that time to just take a deep breath, and just focus on your breath for a minute, and you know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I just completely lost it. You know, redirect, that's the word. Redirect that nervous energy somewhere else, and to like using it as fuel for you to do what you want to do. And that's really all I had for this week, was to kind of talk a little bit through the process of how I handled all of that. And, you know, I was really proud of myself, and patted myself on the back after the race, because I hadn't had that much fun racing in a long time, and it was invigorating. I had so much booty lock. And for those of y'all that don't know what booty lock is, booty lock happens when you basically, a lot of times when you run like an 800 meter or a 400 meter race, and you've run absolutely all out, and your butt cramps pretty much. So I finished with booty lock, and it was absolutely amazing. And I was literally laughing when I crossed the finish line, because I had that much fun, and I was in pain, which was hilarious. But you know, it was super exciting to just be out there again, and just feeling the atmosphere of track and field. I love it, and I've missed it a lot over the last 18 months, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was out there again. And I can't let the negativity and those bad thought patterns that I'd found myself slipping into stop me from being able to perform this year. And I just want everybody to have those sort of knowledge and tools, because like I spend a lot of time researching and reading this stuff, and sharing it with y'all, so y'all don't have to. So hopefully it's more readily available for people. And that's really it. It's like, I don't want to say waste a lot of time, but I spend a lot of time trying to improve my mental game, and tons of other parts of my life. But the mental aspect has been huge for me since I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, like about 4 years ago. So, I delve through these things and talk about these things because I have time, I have the resources, I know where to look, or whatever. I'm trying to make more information available to more people, and make it easier for people to share that information and make positive life changes, and just enjoy life more. I guess if B. Hudge has a mission statement, it's that he wants people to be able to chase their dreams and enjoy their life more. And that's really it. And that's why I share these things that I go through, so that if anything that I've done or learned or gone through can improve other people's lives, then it makes my journey worth it. And hopefully you can then share that with somebody else and make your journey worth it as well. Anyways, that's all I got for this week. We're going to, I guess, unless anybody's got any questions they want to ask or whatever, if anybody's interested, the race video from Saturday is available on Runner Space, but it is behind a paywall and will remain behind a paywall. Runner Space, unlike Flow Track, doesn't take their videos down from behind a paywall. So that's super frustrating. But John Spencer wants to know my splits. My splits, I believe, were 27.5, 28.6, 28.6, and then like 30.8, which was rough. To give people an idea, those were my 200-meter splits. So that last lap, I ran 30.8, I believe I said. I ran, let's see, that's 200 meters and 30.8. I ran 8 of those consecutively without stopping faster than that multiple times in 2015 and 2016. So that's how slow that last lap was. And it hurt a lot. And that's the funny thing about kind of the fitness that I'm in right now. As I get into better shape, and that'll change. If we raced again this weekend, it probably would not be that slow. I probably would actually run 153. But the funny thing about it is like, I'm like getting into shape in a hurry, and a lot of my body's catching up, but it's kind of that final few percent that I'm checking off these next couple of weeks, that is going to make it wildly entertaining in some races, as I try to put together the last little bit. We're getting the first, to start with, I couldn't, 6 weeks ago, I could barely run 1-200 at that place, at that sort of pace. And now I've run 3 of them consecutively without stopping. So now we just got to work on the 4th one. And then same thing with a mile. I know I could probably make it somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 1,200 meters, a goal mile pace. We just got to work on that last 400 right now. So, we're getting in better shape literally every couple of days, and it's exciting to see that. And it's going to be nerve-wracking again to get out there in a week and a half and race the really big boys on the big stage in the big city. So, anyways, if anybody's got anything else they want to add or ask or insult or say, please feel free. Otherwise, I will leave y'all with the rest of your Wednesday night. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, Going the Distance is brought to you by Going the Distance, my book. It's available on Amazon.com if you haven't picked it up. Get yourself a copy today. If you've read it, please leave a review on Amazon. I don't care if you give it 1 star or 4 stars. Just leave a review. That helps me. That helps other people. And I like constructive criticism, and nobody's trolled it yet. So I'm honestly a little disappointed that nobody has left a trolling comment. So until then, I'm going to continue to beg and ask for comments. And this podcast will also be up on YouTube shortly afterwards. So feel free to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's been another week of Going the Distance. This was episode 12, and we will be back next week for episode 13. Lucky number 13 will be at 8 p.m. next week. Is on Audible? Not yet. I should work on that. Don't you want to hear my voice reading you to sleep every night through a book? Don't you want it? I'm not Morgan Freeman. Maybe I can pay Morgan Freeman one day to do the Audible for my book. That'll be a goal. Get Morgan Freeman to read my book. So anyways, that's been Going the Distance this week. You guys are great as always. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next week.